The world had not yet fully recovered from the chaos that marked Optimus Prime's arrival. The sky above the ruined cities remained a dull, metallic gray, a lingering reminder of the machine's unrelenting expansion. Optimus stood atop a jagged precipice, surveying the barren landscape below. Smoke rose from smoldering structures, a combination of his prior battles and the machine's lingering influence. Even amidst the ruin, a strange energy pulsed through the air, one that felt different, more potent than the usual residual signals he had encountered from machine activity. It hummed with an intelligence and awareness that unnerved even a warrior who had faced countless enemies across universes. This was no ordinary machine swarm. Optimus sensed the awakening of something far greater, something that demanded his full attention. The energy signature was subtle at first, nearly imperceptible to the sensors integrated into his optics. It began as a slight vibration under his feet, a faint distortion of the electromagnetic field around him. Optimus crouched, lowering his massive frame to study the anomaly more closely. His optics narrowed. There was a residual pulse, a concentrated beacon of power that radiated from deep within the devastated cityscape. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before. Machines, yes, but these were not mere combat automatons. These were sentient, coordinated, and on a scale that defied logic. The pulse grew stronger, almost as if the world itself was responding to their emergence, bending subtly under their influence. As he prepared to investigate, a sudden rustle of movement drew his attention. From the shadows of a nearby crumbling tower emerged two figures, moving with precision and purpose. They were humanoid, yet their movements carried a mechanical grace, a synchronization between agility and lethal intent. Optimus recognized the design from the readings he had gathered moments before, High units. And there, leading them, were two notable models. 2B, the combat android with an elegance that belied her deadliness, and 9S, a scanner model designed for infiltration and hacking, whose curiosity was already piqued by the disturbance Optimus had detected. The two units stopped abruptly upon spotting him. Their sensors scanned him rapidly, internal systems calculating threat levels, potential engagement scenarios, and tactical approaches. "Identify yourself," 2B commanded, her tone clipped and professional, revealing nothing of the inner calculations that Optimus could feel pulsating from her presence. "State your origin and purpose. Are you allied with humanity or with the machines?" Optimus's voice, deep and resonant, filled the air with authority. "I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. I seek neither war with you nor with humanity, though I will protect the innocent at all costs. There is a greater threat emerging, one that endangers all life in this world." His words were measured, his presence calm yet imposing. He could feel the mechanical instinct for caution radiating from the High units, but he also detected curiosity, the faintest spark of recognition that he was not an ordinary threat. 9S stepped forward, tilting his head in a gesture of inquiry, his scanners sweeping over Optimus's massive form. "Leader?" "Autobots," he murmured, the software in his voice filtering through a mixture of literal analysis and instinctual caution. "We've detected anomalies in the machine network. Unfamiliar, highly advanced, dangerous. Are you part of this anomaly, or are you here to counter it?" His tone carried both skepticism and cautious interest, a reflection of his dual role as scout and analyst. Optimus sensed the mental gears turning in this smaller, more agile android. He appreciated that logic and instinct worked in tandem for these beings, though it made negotiation delicate. Optimus did not move aggressively. Instead, he lowered his massive frame slightly, a gesture he hoped would convey respect without weakness. "I am here to oppose the threat. The signals I have detected originate from entities far more powerful than the common machines you have faced. If we do not act swiftly, the world, and all who dwell in it, will be consumed." 2B studied him intently. Her optics glimmered faintly under the dim light, calculating probabilities. "You claim to oppose them," she said carefully. "Yet your size and weaponry suggest a level of power that could easily dominate this battlefield. How do we trust that your goals align with ours? There was no malice in her words, only the precision of a soldier trained to assess threats, no matter their form. Optimus respected her caution. Trust was earned, and he had long understood that alliances were forged in action, not in proclamations. Trust is not given lightly, Optimus acknowledged. I have come from another world, one where I have fought countless wars to protect freedom. I cannot ask you to believe me without proof, but I can offer cooperation. Observe my actions, not merely my words. Together, we can confront this threat more effectively than apart. 9S adjusted his posture, his sensors running complex algorithms. Cooperation may be beneficial, he said, his voice low and precise, yet we must remain vigilant. The machine gods exhibit intelligence beyond our comprehension. Their emergent behavior suggests adaptive strategies, learning from opposition in real time. If we are to survive, we cannot afford missteps. He turned to 2B, sharing a silent exchange only they could fully comprehend, a mixture of tactical data, situational assessment, and intuitive risk analysis. Optimus understood without being directly included. These units operated on layers of information that surpassed ordinary human comprehension, and yet, in their own way, they sought the same goal: survival against a superior threat. The tension between the three parties was palpable, the silence stretching as the residual pulse grew stronger. It was no longer a simple disturbance. The machine gods were awakening, and their influence was already warping the world around them. Trees shimmered unnaturally, metal debris shifted as if moved by invisible hands, and the faint hum of energy resonated through the ground like the heartbeat of a planet. Optimus's sensors detected patterns, waves of power spreading outward, affecting both biological and mechanical systems alike. Suddenly, a burst of energy erupted from a nearby tower, and a machine emissary emerged, a smaller humanoid automaton, but one clearly infused with intelligence and aggression. It launched forward with deadly precision, weapons already primed to strike both Yoar-Hai units and Optimus alike. Instinctively, Optimus transformed into battle mode, metal shifting and gears whirring, weapon systems aligning in preparation. 2B leaped into motion, her sword slicing the air with lethal elegance, while 9S activated a network of hacking tools to disrupt the machine's guidance systems. The clash was instantaneous. Optimus's strength was overwhelming. His fists crushed reinforced armor, his plasma blaster carved through steel with precision. Yet even as he fought, he observed 2BS movements, noting her speed, her precision, and her strategic mind in combat. Her blade moved with fluidity, anticipating attacks and countering them with minimal exertion. 9S worked behind the scenes, infiltrating the machine's network mid-battle, redirecting targeting protocols and disabling secondary weapons before they could be unleashed. The synergy between the three combatants, though unspoken, was beginning to form. A nascent alliance forged under fire and necessity. When the dust settled, the machine emissary lay in pieces, a smoking heap of wires and metal, its systems incapacitated. Optimus transformed back, towering over the battlefield, optics scanning for any remaining threats. "This is only the beginning," he said, his voice echoing across the ruined city. "The true adversaries are yet to reveal themselves." 2B and 9S approached cautiously, scanning both the debris and Optimus himself. There was an unspoken acknowledgement that, for the moment, survival depended on cooperation, however uneasy it might be. As the three surveyed the landscape, the residual pulse surged again, stronger this time. It was a signal, a herald of the machine god's awakening, a reminder that the battle for this world had only just begun. Optimus's optics narrowed, his mind already calculating strategies, alliances, and contingencies. He understood the stakes. If the machine gods fully awakened without intervention, this world, and potentially others, would be lost. And yet, for the first time since his arrival, he felt something that resembled hope, the possibility that even across universes, allies could be found in unexpected forms. 2B stepped forward, her blade lowered, but still ready. "We have underestimated them," she admitted. her voice carrying a rare note of concern. These machines, their capabilities, are evolving faster than we anticipated. 9SS fingers danced across a holographic interface, analyzing signals and energy patterns. We need to consider collaboration, he said cautiously. Their logic, combined with Optimus' combat capacity, may give us a chance. But we cannot rely solely on strength. Strategy and understanding are paramount. Optimus nodded solemnly. Then we act as one. We combine knowledge, skill, and willpower. Whatever these machine gods are, whatever their purpose, we will confront them, not as isolated forces, but as allies willing to face the impossible together. His words, simple yet commanding, resonated with the androids. They had faced impossible odds before, but this alliance, born of necessity, tempered by caution, was unlike any they had known. Above them, the sky darkened further, a storm of energy forming, as if the machine gods themselves were responding to the presence of these formidable new forces. Optimus raised his arm, scanning the horizon for additional disturbances, his mind already forming a plan to intercept the next wave. 2B adjusted her stance, her blade reflecting the dim light, and 9SS systems flickered as he prepared to interface with any machine signals they encountered. Together, they stood at the edge of the coming storm, aware that the future of this world, and perhaps the entire multiverse, depended on their actions. The world held its breath. The pulse continued, relentless and commanding. Optimus, 2B, and 9S were ready, not just to fight, but to learn, adapt, and endure. In this convergence of universes, a new chapter of struggle, alliance, and revelation had begun. And though uncertainty loomed large, one truth was undeniable. The machine gods had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same. If Optimus Prime stood before the machine gods of Nier Automata, would he see enemies to destroy, or souls searching for purpose? If this story made you think, hit the like button, subscribe to Multiverse Galaxy and tell me in the comments below. Does Optimus change the machines, or do the machines change him? The city below was a battlefield in suspended decay, buildings fractured, streets fissured, and smoke curling into the dull gray sky. Optimus Prime, towering above the ruins in his full robot form, assessed the terrain with a tactical precision honed over centuries of war. 2B and 9S flanked him, their movements fluid, precise, a counterpoint to his massive, deliberate frame. Each step they took was measured, their sensors attuned to the faintest distortion in the air, any sign that the machine gods were probing, testing, awakening fully. The pulse that had first drawn them here was now unmistakable, reverberating through the ground like the heartbeat of a world under siege. It was as if the planet itself was alive, responding to the emerging consciousness of the machine gods. Optimus crouched, placing a massive hand against a fractured building, analyzing the residual vibrations of energy. His optics, glowing bright, scanned for anomalies, patterns of power he could recognize, but which were twisted, alien, unlike anything in Cybertronian or Earth-origin battles. They are not only aware, he said, his voice carrying over the rubble. They are learning. Every strike, every movement is feeding them intelligence. We cannot underestimate them. 2B moved to his left, her blade resting lightly on her shoulder as her sensors traced the faint energy patterns in the air. Their learning capability is evolving faster than we can calculate. Each encounter will make them stronger, more adaptive. Direct confrontation will be risky. 9S, meanwhile, was already interfacing with the remnants of nearby machine units, his fingers flying across holographic panels of data as he attempted to infiltrate their network. Partial access achieved, he announced. They are coordinated through a central intelligence, but decentralized enough to prevent a total system override. Any action we take must consider both the collective and the autonomous units. Optimus nodded, his mind already processing strategies. Then we move with precision. Every attack must have purpose. Every defensive maneuver must anticipate adaptation. We will face them, yes, but we will do so intelligently. He transformed to battle mode, his limbs shifting seamlessly, energy weapons aligning for engagement. Prepare yourselves. The first wave is approaching. From the shattered skyline emerged silhouettes, dozens of machines, humanoid forms interspersed with grotesque designs, towers of metallic limbs, flying constructs with jagged appendages, and massive armored behemoths, whose movements belied their size. These were no ordinary combat units. They were emissaries, extensions of the machine gods themselves, and they advanced with an unnerving synchronicity. Their sensors glowed faintly, scanning for threats, but their intelligence was evident in the precision of their formations. Optimus stepped forward, his cannon unleashing a pulse of energy that tore through the lead units, sending sparks and shrapnel into the air. Yet even as he fired, he observed the machine's reaction. They adapted almost instantly, redirecting their flight paths and closing ranks with frightening coordination. 2B dashed into the fray, her sword slicing through metal with a grace that defied the chaos around her, each strike carefully calculated to exploit the machine's momentary vulnerabilities. 9S supported from behind, his hacking capabilities allowing him to disrupt targeting systems, misdirecting several units, and buying the others precious seconds. Despite the teamwork, Optimus could feel the machine gods themselves observing, learning from every move. Each unit they destroyed seemed to leave behind a subtle adjustment, an adaptation in the swarm's behavior. "They are calculating faster than any foe I have faced," he muttered, almost to himself. "Their intelligence is vast. They will not relent easily." Suddenly, a towering machine emerged from the rubble, a construct larger than the others, with a head resembling a crown of dark energy and limbs that split into multiple, weaponized appendages. Its optics glowed crimson, and the pulse of its energy field was immense, dwarfing even the residual signals from the surrounding units. Optimus's optics narrowed. "The machine god," he said. "That is their command unit. Focus your efforts there, but remain cautious. Their influence extends beyond the battlefield." 2B assessed the machine god, her blade already humming with energy. "Engagement at close range may be suicidal. We can delay it, harass it, but we cannot overpower it directly without a coordinated strategy." 9S analyzed the energy patterns emanating from the construct. Their code is partially exposed through the peripheral units. If we manipulate the network correctly, we can create openings, exploit vulnerabilities in the central unit without risking frontal assault. Optimus's gaze swept over them both, recognizing the logic in their approach. Then we combine tactics. 2B, engage to distract and assess, drawing attention to openings. 9S, feed me network vulnerabilities as they arise. I will strike with precision when the opportunity presents itself. His voice carried authority, yet it was collaborative, acknowledging the indispensable roles of both androids. The battle commenced with a ferocity that shook the very foundations of the ruined city. 2B moved like a shadow, weaving through the machine swarm, her strikes precise, cutting, disabling. Each movement was deliberate, a calculated risk to observe the machine's response patterns. 9S moved with equal purpose, not through brute force, but through hacking, subverting, redirecting, and occasionally disabling small clusters of machines mid-combat. Optimus engaged directly with the larger units, his immense strength and weaponry leveling threats with careful but decisive blows. Despite their combined might, the machine gods were relentless. Each unit destroyed seemed to strengthen the whole, their network intelligence dynamically adapting, learning, and anticipating. The larger machine god observed from above, adjusting its minions' attack patterns with a terrifying acuity. Optimus realized that brute force alone would not suffice. Coordination, strategy, and split-second adaptation would be required to survive. As the clash intensified, 2B's voice cut through the chaos. "They are testing us, Prime. Every unit we destroy is teaching them new attack vectors. We must end this quickly or be trapped in an endless cycle." 9S, his hacking interface glowing brighter than before, added, "If we exploit the central node, we might collapse the network. But approaching it directly is almost impossible. They anticipate intrusion in real time." Optimus analyzed the battlefield, his mind running calculations at speeds impossible for organic beings. Then we must create an opening, a synchronized strike combining physical assault and network infiltration. 2B, draw them toward the eastern sector. I will advance from the west. 9S, your intervention must time perfectly to disrupt their coordination, just as we converge on the command unit. A tense pause fell over the battlefield as all three prepared. The machine units hesitated momentarily, sensing the impending threat but unable to fully predict the synchronized strategy. In those precious seconds, Optimus transformed, firing his blaster at multiple units to scatter them, creating chaos in the ranks. 2B moved in perfect synchrony, her blade flashing through the air with lethal precision, forcing the machines to respond defensively. Simultaneously, 9S infiltrated the network, injecting a carefully coded virus to destabilize the command unit's peripheral control. The machine god's optics flared crimson as the disruption rippled through its network. Units faltered, patterns broke, and for the first time, the swarm hesitated. Optimus seized the moment, charging directly at the colossal entity, weapons blazing, ready to strike a decisive blow, while 2B and 9S maintained relentless pressure on the disrupted units. Yet even as he advanced, Optimus knew this was only the beginning. The machine gods were evolving, learning, adapting in ways that would challenge every ounce of his experience, every tactic he had mastered. The battle was far from over. The stakes were higher than ever. And as the trio moved in unison, they became more than allies. They became a force capable of confronting something no single universe had ever faced. The city trembled under the weight of their engagement, the machine gods responding with countermeasures that threatened to overwhelm even this combined force. Optimus felt the enormity of the challenge, but he also felt a glimmer of hope, the first tangible sign that collaboration, courage, and strategy might turn the tide. Above all, he knew that failure was not an option. The machine gods could not be allowed to awaken fully. The world would not survive if they did. As the dust and energy swirled around them, Optimus, 2B, and 9S readied themselves for the next phase of the battle, fully aware that every decision, every movement, and every strike could determine the fate of their reality. In that moment, across universes and civilizations, an unspoken understanding formed. This fight would define the destiny of all life, and nothing, not even the machine gods themselves, would be able to stop it if these allies stood united. The battlefield had grown chaotic, a fractured cityscape littered with burning debris, twisted metal, and the shattered remnants of machine units. Smoke curled from a wreckage, mingling with the acrid tang of scorched circuitry and the metallic scent of coolant. Optimus Prime, towering above the devastation, moved methodically despite the chaos. His optics scanned constantly, registering threats, weaknesses, and patterns, while his mind processed countless tactical possibilities. Beside him, 2B and 9S moved with synchronized precision. 2B striking with fluid, lethal grace, 9S probing networks, redirecting the machine's own systems against them. Yet even as they coordinated, it became clear that this was no ordinary engagement. The machine gods themselves were orchestrating every movement, learning faster than any opponent Optimus had faced. The first sign of their true intelligence came in a sudden, unnatural shift in the machine unit's attack patterns. Entire formations pivoted simultaneously, anticipating the trio's coordinated assault before it happened. Projectiles once scattered now converged with uncanny accuracy, and the smaller units acted as decoys to draw attention away from more heavily armed constructs. Optimus slowed, analyzing the change. "They are predicting our strategy," he said, his voice calm but carrying a note of concern. "They are adapting at a rate we did not anticipate. This is no longer a test. They are actively countering every move." 2BS blade clashed with a massive metallic arm, sparks scattering like deadly fireflies. She pivoted, striking in rapid succession, but even as she moved, the machine's response patterns shifted mid-combat. "They are evolving with each engagement," she observed, her tone measured, analytical. "Every strike we land informs their next attack. We cannot rely on repeated tactics. they will anticipate them instantly. 9S crouched behind a partial wall of debris, interfaced with a severed machine limb. His holographic panels flickered with streams of code, tracing the neural-like network connecting the units. They are forming a decentralized hive consciousness, he explained. Individual units learn independently, but all feed into a central intelligence. Targeting one unit only teaches the network how to counter our methods. We must find a way to disrupt the core, the central node, without triggering defensive escalation. Optimus nodded, his optics narrowing. The realization was stark. The machine gods were not just intelligent. They were adaptive, strategic, and ruthlessly efficient. Conventional assault alone would not suffice. Then we divide their focus, he said. We create multiple threats simultaneously. 2B, your movements will draw their attention while I maneuver to strike from an unexpected angle. 9S, your task is to exploit network vulnerabilities at precisely the right moment. As he spoke, a new wave of machines descended from the clouds above. These were larger, more menacing than the first, flying constructs bristling with weapons, their forms jagged and terrifying. They swooped toward the ground, their flight patterns perfectly synchronized, designed to encircle and isolate the trio. Optimus transformed mid-step, launching counterfire from his arm-mounted cannons, while 2B leapt with preternatural agility, slicing through the incoming units. Sparks erupted, metal screeched, and 9SS hacking interface flared with streams of code as he rerouted enemy targeting systems, sending several of the aerial units crashing into one another. Despite their efforts, the machine gods remained unfazed. A pulse of energy radiated outward from the central command unit, subtly warping the environment. Cracks in the ground widened, debris shifted, and smaller machines realigned instantaneously to block any direct path. Optimus felt the weight of their intelligence pressing against every move he made. They are testing us, he said, his voice heavy with calculated concern. Each reaction is measured. Every opening we see is calculated to lead us into traps. 2B, recognizing the pattern, adjusted her approach. She began a series of feints and rapid strikes, drawing attention away from Optimus, whose massive form advanced with careful precision. The machine units followed, predictably, leaving gaps in the periphery that 9S could exploit. We can destabilize them, 9S said, eyes locked on the code streams. But the timing must be perfect. Any misstep, and the network will adapt before we can strike. The central machine god shifted its stance, multiple appendages extending like metallic branches, each ending in weaponized forms. Its optics glowed crimson, scanning with terrifying accuracy. Optimus assessed the entity, weighing the risks. The command unit cannot be destroyed without consequences, he said. We strike to disrupt, not to annihilate. Collapse its network temporarily, create a window, then we reassess. Suddenly, the machine god emitted a pulse of concentrated energy, knocking both 2B and 9S off balance. Optimus braced himself, unleashing a countershot that fragmented several incoming projectiles mid-air. The force of the impact cracked the ground beneath him, but he remained steadfast. They are capable of overwhelming force as well as intelligence, he noted. Our advantage lies in strategy, not brute power. 2B regained her footing, sweeping her blade in a controlled arc to cut down pursuing units. We are being herded, she said, her sensors scanning rapidly. Each engagement is orchestrated to corral us toward a central convergence point. They intend to isolate and neutralize us individually. Optimus moved toward the predicted convergence point, signaling 2B and 9S to follow. Every step was calculated, every maneuver precise. The machine gods adapted, altering attack vectors in real time, but the trio's coordination countered the evolution. Sparks, smoke, and debris filled the air as they closed the distance, maneuvering toward the central unit while avoiding its overwhelming influence. Finally, a tactical opportunity presented itself. 9S, manipulating the network, created a brief cascade of errors within the machine unit's coordination. Peripheral constructs faltered, and the central machine god momentarily shifted its focus toward the glitch. Optimus, seizing the opening, advanced with a series of devastating strikes, targeting vulnerable joints and weapon arrays. 2B moved in tandem, slicing through key nodes and forcing the machines to overextend their responses. The machine gods adapted rapidly, but the trio had achieved a critical first success. For a brief moment, the battlefield became a stage of deliberate, synchronized chaos. Optimus directing the physical assault, 2B exploiting openings and redirecting attention, 9S destabilizing the network with surgical precision. The machine gods were learning, evolving, but even they were not infallible. Amidst the rubble and flashing energy, Optimus's voice carried over the battlefield. We fight not just for survival, but for understanding. Every action we take teaches us about them, and teaches them about us. The machine gods may adapt, but so will we. Together, we can meet them on equal ground. The battle had reached a crescendo. Units continued to pour in, but the trio moved as one, demonstrating that strategy, collaboration, and adaptability could match, even temporarily surpass, the raw intelligence of the machine gods. They had survived the initial wave, disrupted part of the central command, and learned the patterns that would allow further tactical strikes. Yet Optimus knew the war was far from over. The machine gods would recover, learn from this engagement, and their next actions would be even more formidable. The cityscape trembled under the weight of the ongoing conflict. Sparks rained down, concrete fractured, and the air thrummed with energy from overlapping attacks. Optimus, 2B, and 9S paused only briefly, recalibrating their positions. Every second mattered. Every choice had consequences. They had proven their capability, but the machine gods were adaptive, intelligent, and ruthless. The true confrontation, the decisive engagement, was still ahead, looming over the horizon like a shadow yet to fully materialize. As smoke drifted across the battlefield and sparks danced from destroyed units, a silent understanding passed between them. This was more than a fight. It was a battle of minds as much as of strength. Optimus, in his centuries of experience, had never faced an opponent that learned at such a rate. 2B and 9S, despite their android precision, were equally tested, forced to improvise and synchronize like never before. Together, they were a coalition of unparalleled skill and ingenuity, standing against the awakening machine gods with determination as unyielding as steel. The fractured cityscape had grown into a labyrinth of ruin, a twisted blend of metallic wreckage, smoldering concrete, and the charred remains of machine units. Sparks lit the air like embers in a storm, casting shadows that twisted unnaturally across the battlefield. Optimus Prime advanced carefully, every step measured, his optics scanning for the faintest deviation in patterns, any signal that might indicate a vulnerability in the machine god's adaptive network. Beside him, 2B's blade gleamed in the dim light as she moved with precise, calculated fluidity, her movements almost dance-like, while 9S crouched behind a jagged heap of metal, eyes flickering with streams of code as he probed the machine's neural web. The trio approached the central convergence point, the pulsating heart of the machine god's collective intelligence, where the largest and most imposing construct towered above all else, its form shifting constantly as if alive, simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. Optimus observed the central machine god carefully. Its optics glowed with a crimson intensity, scanning the battlefield and adjusting its subordinates' positions with unnerving speed. The unit's body, composed of interlocking plates of unknown alloys, flexed and extended appendages armed with energy blades and ranged weapons. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and designed to punish any misstep. "This is the core," Optimus said, his voice low, reverberating over the battlefield. "Everything revolves around it. Its destruction or destabilization will create a cascade, but we must strike with precision. Any mistake could strengthen it instead." 2B adjusted her stance, scanning the surrounding machine units. "We cannot engage head-on. Their sensors and reaction times are too fast, their adaptability too precise. A direct assault will only teach them how to counter us faster." Her blade arced in a graceful sweep, cutting through a squad of smaller units that had attempted to flank them. Sparks flew, metal shrieking as circuits overloaded and fragments fell to the ground. "We must force an opening through diversion and infiltration," she said. 9SS holographic display pulsed with streams of intercepted code. "I've detected a timing window," he said, fingers flying across the virtual interface. "A slight desynchronization between the central node and its peripheral units. It's brief, but long enough to infiltrate the core if we coordinate perfectly. Any misalignment and the network will adjust instantly." He glanced up at Optimus. "Prime, you take the lead on physical engagement. 2B and I will create multiple points of distraction and hacking interference. We can fracture their focus momentarily, but only if we maintain constant adaptation." Optimus Prime transformed fluidly, cannon arms emerging from his shoulders, his massive frame bristling with energy shields. He advanced toward the core, moving with the weight of centuries of battle wisdom. Every step was calculated, every action designed to counteract the machine god's predictive modeling. Smaller units swarmed, but Optimus targeted them with precise fire, collapsing their formations without overextending. 2B struck with surgical efficiency, slicing through key units to force the larger constructs to react, while 9S sent cascades of disruptive signals into the network, causing minor miscalculations that rippled outward. As they neared the central unit, the machine gods responded in a coordinated surge. Energy pulses radiated from the core, knocking 2B off balance and forcing Optimus to brace against the kinetic shockwaves. 9SS hacking interface flared violently, his fingers working at impossible speed to stabilize the intrusion. "They are countering the disruption," he shouted over the din of the battlefield. "Their learning algorithms are adapting even faster than we anticipated." Optimus Prime adjusted his approach, combining firepower with calculated melee strikes, targeting key mechanical joints that allowed partial immobilization of the core's limbs. 2B moved in tandem, her blade cutting with rhythm and precision, exploiting each momentary weakness to create openings for 9SS network interference. Sparks and fragments flew as the central machine god countered, its appendages moving unpredictably, energy pulses radiating outward in deadly arcs. Every strike was met with an adaptive response, yet the trio maintained cohesion, each action reinforcing the others. A sudden seismic shock emanated from beneath, throwing debris into the air. The central machine god had anticipated their approach, projecting subterranean tentacles to destabilize the battlefield. Optimus caught 2B mid-leap, shielding her from a fallen girder as 9S redirected a wave of overloading drones into a collision course with the central unit. The clash created a momentary disruption, opening a narrow path toward the core's central node. Optimus Prime seized the opportunity. His massive fist struck a reinforced joint, destabilizing one of the central machine god's appendages. The construct faltered for a brief instant, its coordination thrown off balance, yet its eyes glowed brighter, as if compensating for the strike by increasing its computational intensity. 2B darted through the breach, her blade slicing at the control conduits visible through the fractured plating, each strike designed to create openings without destroying critical systems entirely. 9S moved behind her, interfacing with the network to exploit the physical breach, sending targeted pulses to overload the core's peripheral connections. The machine god reacted violently, emitting a pulse of energy that sent debris and sparks raining across the battlefield. 2B rolled through the shockwave, her movements fluid, landing near the core while narrowly avoiding a sweeping appendage. Optimus Prime fired with calculated restraint, targeting the base of the central unit's legs, preventing it from regaining a stable stance. 9SS code streams converged, focusing all hacking efforts on the core's network, attempting to fracture the adaptive intelligence long enough to neutralize the immediate threat. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Sparks and energy arcs filled the air, creating a kaleidoscope of destructive brilliance. Optimus's optics locked on the central node, to be poised for a decisive strike, and 9SS holographic display shimmered with cascading data. Together, they had created a window, a fleeting but potent opening, where the machine god's collective coordination was fractured. Optimus Prime's massive hand struck the core, applying force to destabilize its structure, while sending a shockwave of energy down its limbs. 2B leapt through the gap, blade piercing one of the exposed conduits, slicing through critical circuits, and causing localized system failures. 9SS digital assault synchronized with the physical attack, sending targeted pulses to disable adaptive learning in the peripheral units temporarily. Sparks and energy arcs cascaded outward, signaling a successful, though partial, disruption of the machine god's central control. But the victory was fragile. The machine gods, despite the disruption, began to adapt to the sudden breach, their movements becoming erratic yet increasingly aggressive. Optimus could sense the escalation, the calculated pressure of an intelligence that was still analyzing, learning, and predicting their next moves. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They will adapt faster now. We must press our advantage without hesitation." 2B nodded, repositioning herself for the next wave, while 9S continued his interface, reinforcing the disruption in the network. Together, they had managed to strike at the heart of the machine gods, creating the first real vulnerability, yet the cost was evident. Every unit they damaged provided more data to the enemy. Optimus Prime knew that the battle would only intensify from this point forward, demanding greater ingenuity, resilience, and unwavering coordination. The machine gods had been wounded, but were far from defeated, and the trio's path toward victory would require every ounce of skill, strategy, and courage they possessed. The air vibrated with the residue of energy pulses, metallic clangs, and the faint hum of corrupted circuits. The temporary breach in the machine god's central node had caused a ripple of chaos through the battlefield, but the reprieve was dangerously brief. Optimus Prime's optics scanned relentlessly, analyzing the patterns of adaptation that the machine gods now deployed. Every small maneuver he and 2B had executed in coordination with 9SS hacking had been studied, processed, and countered with near-immediate adjustments. The enemy had shifted from predictable aggression to chaotic intelligence, a learning predator capable of anticipating their next moves. 2B crouched behind a fractured spire, blade gleaming under the fractured light filtering through the ruined cityscape. "Their adaptability is beyond anything I've ever seen," she said, voice measured but tense. Sparks cascaded from a nearby column as a small unit collided into it mid-flight, adapting mid-air to her attempted strike. "We cannot rely solely on brute force. Every attack teaches them to counter us more efficiently." She adjusted her stance, pivoting fluidly to strike a unit attempting to flank Optimus. Her every movement now needed to account for the machine god's rapidly updating tactics, turning each offensive into a delicate balance of risk and precision. 9S, kneeling beside an exposed panel of rubble, interfaced with the network once again, sending bursts of code designed to overload secondary nodes and confuse peripheral units. "I've never seen a system learn this fast," he muttered, eyes scanning streams of data cascading across his visor. "Every disruption we create only accelerates their adaptation. We need to create a new kind of interference, a multi-vector assault that overwhelms their predictive algorithms." He paused, analyzing the structure of the central node and its expanding tendrils. "Optimus, we need you to draw their attention long enough for me to launch a simultaneous system collapse. 2B, your role is critical in creating physical decoys while maintaining pressure. Timing has to be perfect." Optimus Prime's massive form shifted into combat mode, shields bristling and weaponry at the ready. He moved with deliberate precision, absorbing attacks that had been calibrated to his known response patterns, forcing the machine gods to expend energy recalibrating mid-battle. Every strike he delivered was calculated to exploit openings while simultaneously keeping himself in motion, ensuring that the machine gods could not target a single weakness for long. "I understand the plan, 9S, he said, his voice calm yet resolute. "We execute together. There is no margin for error." The machine gods responded with an unexpected escalation. Energy arcs spread across the battlefield, vaporizing sections of ruined terrain, and the larger units deployed adaptive shields, reshaping their armored plates in mid-combat. Smaller units swarmed with perfect coordination, attacking from angles that Optimus and 2B had not anticipated. 9SS digital interface flared with warnings as new algorithms propagated through the network, predicting trajectories and countering attacks faster than he could input directives. The central node pulsed ominously, projecting tendrils that destabilized the ground beneath their feet and forcing the heroes into precarious positions. Optimus Prime leapt forward, fists and weapons striking simultaneously. His movements were a calculated storm of precision and overwhelming force, designed to engage multiple units while drawing attention away from 2B and 9S. Sparks erupted as his cannon fire pierced the defenses of a series of smaller machine gods, while his armored fists disabled key mobility nodes in the larger units. Each impact produced a violent feedback, forcing adaptive recalibration by the enemy. 2B moved like water around him, slicing through key structures, creating openings while maintaining momentum, her blade generating arcs of energy that disrupted targeting sensors. 9SS hacking reached a critical phase. Using the brief windows created by Optimus and 2B, he injected a complex code into the network, one designed not to destroy, but to confuse the machine gods' predictive models. The code replicated in fractal patterns, propagating false signals, falsifying threat locations, and scrambling adaptive pathways. The network staggered, and a ripple of uncertainty spread across the battlefield. For the first time, the machine gods hesitated, their movements slightly desynchronized, their coordination faltering just enough to create exploitable gaps. But the enemy was not so easily subdued. The central node began deploying experimental countermeasures. Units with adaptive energy blades and kinetic shields, capable of anticipating and intercepting attacks mid-swing. Subroutines emerged, mimicking their strategies to anticipate moves before they happened, effectively turning the battlefield into a hall of mirrors, where every action prompted a mirrored response. The trio found themselves in a dangerous cycle. Every opening they created was immediately studied, analyzed, and countered. Optimus Prime's voice resonated over the chaos. We cannot afford to fight conventionally. We must force them to overextend and expose a flaw in their adaptation. His optics fixed on the central node, calculating angles of approach, potential damage paths, and structural weak points. 2B responded immediately, repositioning herself to act as a dynamic decoy, her movements timed to attract attacks, while remaining lethal enough to exploit openings. 9S synchronized his digital interference, sending pulses into the adaptive units to amplify confusion. The three operated as a singular unit, a calculated triangle of disruption against a networked predator capable of learning from every strike. The battle intensified. Energy blasts collided with metal plating, sending fragments into the air. 2B narrowly avoided a crushing blow from a multi-jointed unit, rolling and slicing a conduit that disabled part of its mobility system. Optimus blocked and countered simultaneous energy strikes, his massive frame absorbing punishment while delivering calculated devastation. 9SS system interface flickered with cascading code, streams of interference that caused secondary units to collide or misfire, buying them precious moments. A sudden surge from the central node caught the trio off guard. A kinetic wave erupted outward, knocking them all back and destabilizing the temporary structural foundations beneath them. 2B rolled forward, using momentum to maintain proximity to a newly exposed control conduit. Optimus stabilized himself mid-stride, deploying countermeasures to absorb the brunt of the energy wave, while 9S recalibrated his code to counteract the new adaptive protocols the machine gods were deploying. The pulse revealed the core's new vulnerability, a momentary exposure in the network's central data conduits. Optimus Prime's optics locked on the target, understanding that the next strike would dictate the outcome of this escalating engagement. 2B prepared herself, poised to exploit the exposed conduits with surgical precision, while 9S aligned his digital attack to hit simultaneously. The battlefield was in chaos. Sparks, debris, and energy arcs illuminated a scene of relentless conflict. The machine gods, for all their intelligence, had reached a threshold. Their adaptability was formidable, but not infinite. If executed perfectly, the trio's combined assault could destabilize the core entirely. They moved as one. Optimus advanced with measured force, creating openings and drawing attention, while 2BS blades struck the exposed conduits with lethal accuracy. 9SS digital pulse surged through the network at the same moment, cascading through adaptive nodes and fracturing peripheral units. Sparks and energy arcs exploded across the central node, and for the first time, the machine god's coordination fractured significantly. Peripheral units misfired, central tendrils lost sync, and a brief silence fell across the battlefield, punctuated only by the low hum of residual energy. Optimus Prime's optics scanned the aftermath. The temporary disruption had created a decisive, but fragile, advantage. The machine god's adaptation algorithms would recover, but they had just experienced a vulnerability. 2B and 9S adjusted, readying for the next phase. Their combined strategy had proven effective, but the fight was far from over. The battlefield had shifted, the machine gods had learned, and the stakes had escalated to a new, more dangerous level. The trio now had the insight necessary to execute the critical strike in the following engagement, but only if they could maintain their synchronization and exploit the fleeting vulnerabilities before the machine gods recalibrated fully. The night had fallen over the ruins of the abandoned city, the once proud towers now twisted and scorched, their neon lights long extinguished. Optimus Prime's massive frame moved with measured precision through the wreckage, his optics scanning for any sign of the machine god scouts. Beside him, 2B and 9S moved in tandem, their combat protocols honed from countless battles, their movements fluid and synchronized despite the chaos around them. The air hummed with the latent energy of the machine god's influence, and the ground vibrated faintly with the mechanical pulse of their distant command nodes. 2BS blade sang as she struck down a patrol of smaller machines, her precision unmatched as each swing carved arcs of death through the metal adversaries. Sparks flew, mingling with the ash that drifted lazily through the broken streets, and 9S darted from cover to cover, his hacking interface flickering as he disrupted enemy communications, turning automated turrets against one another. Optimus's massive arms swung in sweeping motions, each strike a display of raw power and tactical calculation, crushing drones beneath his foot or tearing them apart midair. Despite their prowess, the machine god's adaptive strategies were evident. Every advance they made was met with a counter, every exposed flank anticipated and exploited. In the shadow of a collapsed overpass, 2B paused to recalibrate her energy output, her visor scanning for anomalous readings. Optimus, the central node is responding to our movements faster than expected, she said, her voice a calm contrast to the mechanical cacophony surrounding them. We're triggering preemptive defenses. If we continue at this rate, it may initiate a lockdown protocol that isolates the node entirely. Optimus considered her assessment, his processors calculating probabilities and contingencies. Then we must adjust. 9S, can you reroute the local network to create a temporal window? 9SS fingers danced across his portable hacking device, streams of code cascading like waterfalls of light. It's possible, he replied, eyes narrowing in concentration. But it will take precise timing. One mistake, and we could trigger a self-destruct sequence. The streets ahead shimmered with the subtle distortion of a cloaking field, and Optimus knew immediately what it meant. The machine gods had dispatched elite units, capable of both counterattack and decoy maneuvers. The three warriors exchanged a brief nod, an unspoken understanding passing between them, and surged forward as a unified force. Optimus's stride alone caused the ground to tremble, and the first wave of drones was shredded before they could react, 2B moving like a phantom among the wreckage, 9S manipulating the battlefield from the shadows. As they approached the central plaza, the enormity of the machine god's defenses became evident. Towers of spire-like machines surrounded a glowing core, thrumming with power that made the air itself vibrate. A defensive swarm erupted from hidden conduits, mechanical limbs, and weapons, firing with inhuman precision. Optimus shifted into combat mode, his arm-mounted cannon discharging energy blasts that tore through multiple units at once, while his shields absorbed return fire. 2B and 9S flanked him, their attacks synchronized with his own, every strike designed to complement the others. Yet, the machine gods adapted at a speed that strained even Optimus's computational foresight. Each wave was more coordinated than the last, each assault anticipating their moves and exploiting minute delays in their formation. It became clear that the Corps' defense was not merely reactive, but predictive, a network capable of modeling their strategies and countering them before execution. 9SS fingers flew over his device as he attempted to infiltrate the node remotely. "It's learning too fast. My algorithms can't keep up in real time," he muttered, frustration flickering across his features. Optimus paused briefly, assessing the situation. The Corps needed to be disabled directly. A frontal attack was suicidal, yet lingering any longer risked entrapment. He turned to 2B and 9S. "We must strike together. Precision and timing will be our only advantage." The three nodded, understanding that failure here meant not just death, but the potential activation of the machine god's ultimate countermeasures. They advanced as a single entity, moving through the barrage with an almost preternatural coordination. 2B sliced through incoming drones, her blade leaving arcs of light in its wake. 9S disrupted targeting protocols, sending automated units into chaotic loops. Optimus's massive form bore the brunt of the energy fire, absorbing and deflecting while creating openings for his allies. The Corps' pulse grew stronger, and with each step, the air thickened with a low, resonant hum that made even 2B and 9S pause, sensing the overwhelming intelligence behind the machine collective. Then, in a moment of perfect synchronization, they reached the base of the Corps. Optimus planted his feet, grounding himself, and raised his arm-mounted cannon. "Now, 9S, initiate your override," he commanded. 9SS hands moved in a blur, launching an intricate sequence of code that weaved through the node's defenses like a needle through fabric. Simultaneously, 2B launched a concentrated energy strike directly into the access point, her blade cutting through the hardened armor as if it were paper. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, the combined force of technology and raw power colliding at the heart of the machine god's core. Then, the hum became a shriek, reverberating through the plaza as the network began to unravel. The towers, once so imposing, shuddered and collapsed, sparks flying like showers of deadly rain. Yet, the Corps itself resisted, a final bastion of the machine god's will, twisting and shifting as if alive, analyzing every angle of attack in real time. Optimus's optics glowed brighter, scanning for structural weaknesses. "We cannot delay. All coordinated strikes. Focus on the junctions," he ordered. 2B and 9S obeyed without hesitation, their movements a fluid ballet of destruction and disruption. Each strike, each input, chipped away at the machine god's final defenses, the combined assault finally forcing the Corps into a state of instability. Light flared, the plaza shaking as the heart of the machine intelligence faltered, its predictive algorithms scrambling in confusion. The resonance of the Corps' collapse echoed across the surrounding ruins, and for the first time, the oppressive hum of the machine god's presence faltered. Optimus took a deep, measured breath, aware that victory was near but not guaranteed. The trio had pushed through the impossible, their synergy unmatched, yet they knew that the machine god's remaining defenses could still respond with devastating efficiency. The central plaza trembled under the aftershocks of the machine god Corps' destabilization. Dust and debris cascaded from the shattered towers, mingling with the acrid scent of scorched metal and ionized air. Optimus Prime remained vigilant, his optics scanning for residual threats, while 2B and 9S fanned out, taking tactical positions to prevent any counter-assault. The machine gods were far from defeated. Their adaptive intelligence still pulsed faintly through the fractured network, and secondary units began reactivating with renewed coordination. 2B crouched behind a twisted pillar of concrete, her blade reflecting the intermittent flashes of collapsing machinery. Optimus, they're reorganizing faster than anticipated. We may have only a few minutes before the secondary nodes reroute and regain full operational capacity, she said, her calm tone betraying the urgency beneath. 9S, crouched beside her, nodded, his visor flickering with streams of code. I'm detecting fragmented AI clusters trying to self-repair. If we don't disrupt them entirely, the machine gods could reconstruct themselves or even call reinforcements from outside this sector. Optimus's massive form shifted forward, his sensors detecting the weak points exposed by their previous assault. Then we hit the remaining clusters simultaneously, he said, his voice resolute and commanding. 2B, you lead the strike on the northern junction. 9S, engage the southern interface. I will confront the central stabilization unit directly. We synchronize our assault. Timing will be crucial. Both androids acknowledged with precise nods, their movements fluid as they separated to their designated positions. The northern junction was a labyrinth of twisted metal and sparking conduits. 2B advanced with lethal grace, her blade carving paths through the reinvigorated machines, each strike calculated to disable without unnecessary energy expenditure. Automated turrets rotated to target her, but she danced between their fire, exploiting every opening with preternatural speed. Sparks and debris rained around her as she reached the control nodes, inserting a device to short-circuit the remaining circuits. She moved with mechanical precision, yet there was an artistry to every motion, a deadly elegance born from countless battles. Meanwhile, 9S engaged the southern interface, his hacking protocols launching into the fragmented AI clusters. The network fought back, sending countermeasures and digital traps designed to scramble his interface. He dodged automated projectiles, his body moving in a blur as he maintained focus on the code. They're predicting my actions, but not perfectly, he muttered, pushing his abilities to the limit. With a sudden surge, he injected a virus that destabilized the southern nodes, causing them to collapse in a cascade of sparks and distorted mechanical shrieks. Optimus moved through the central stabilization unit with a deliberate, unstoppable force. The ground beneath him cracked as he advanced, each step measured, each strike calculated. Dozens of small combat drones converged on him, but his massive arms swung in arcs of pure power, dismantling them midair. The air was filled with the sound of metal tearing and hydraulic pistons screaming under stress. He reached the core's outer shell, his optics locking onto the pulsating energy that kept the machine god's network coherent. With a decisive roar, Optimus delivered a concentrated strike to the stabilization unit. The impact reverberated through the plaza, and the remaining machines shuddered violently. Sparks erupted, and the distorted hum of the machine god's intelligence warped into a chaotic cacophony. The core began to fracture, cracks forming across its once impenetrable shell, light flaring from within like the birth of a new star. Yet even as the core faltered, a new challenge emerged. From the depths of the plaza, a massive reinforcement unit emerged, an experimental construct, larger and faster than any drone previously encountered. Its design was sleek yet brutal, a perfect fusion of agility and firepower, with adaptive shielding that shimmered under incoming attacks. Optimus immediately assessed the threat. 2B, 9S, prepare for a high-intensity engagement. This unit must be contained, or all our progress will be undone, he commanded. The three of them engaged the behemoth in a dance of destruction and strategy. 2BS strikes targeted weak points along its armor. 9S exploited glitches in its targeting system, and Optimus delivered raw power directly to its reinforced chassis. The machine countered with overwhelming speed, launching energy beams and mechanical appendages with lethal precision. Every strike from the trio was met with an equally calculated defensive maneuver, and for the first time, they encountered true parity in intelligence and adaptability. Minutes stretched into a grueling battle, each moment testing their limits. Optimus's arm-mounted cannon discharged in sweeping arcs. 2BS blade ignited with concentrated energy, and 9SS hacking interface created unpredictable disruptions in the reinforcement unit's targeting. Yet, the machine adapted quickly, learning from each strike, predicting patterns, and closing gaps faster than expected. It became a battle of improvisation versus adaptation, raw force against synthetic intelligence. Realizing brute strength alone would not suffice, Optimus recalibrated his approach. We combine tactics. 2B, channel your strikes to create openings. 9S, overload its neural circuits. I will deliver the final coordinated strike when it is destabilized, he ordered. The androids adjusted instantly, their actions now perfectly synchronized. 2BS blade tore through armor plates at precise angles. 9S injected a surge of corrupt code, and Optimus readied his final assault, calculating the optimal moment to apply maximum force. The machine's defenses faltered under the combined onslaught. Sparks cascaded from exposed circuits, its movement faltering, shield generators flickering. Optimus channeled all available energy into a final decisive strike, crushing the reinforcement unit against the fractured core's base. The plaza erupted in a brilliant explosion of light and sound as the last vestiges of the machine god's defenses disintegrated, leaving only smoldering ruins and a tense, echoing silence. In that silence, Optimus stood tall, his massive frame silhouetted against the faint glow of the dying core. 2B and 9S approached cautiously, scanning for any residual threats. The machine god's network had been shattered, their intelligence scattered, and for the first time, the trio could breathe, knowing that the immediate danger had passed. Yet each of them remained aware of the larger implications. This battle was only the beginning, and the cost of their victory was already etched in the ruins around them. The air still vibrated with the remnants of energy discharges as Optimus Prime, 2B, and 9S regrouped in the center of the devastated plaza. The once monolithic city of machines lay in twisted heaps of metal, wires exposed like veins, and scorched conduits sparking intermittently. A haze of dust mixed with the acrid scent of burnt circuits, lingering like a reminder of the war they had just waged. Each of them moved cautiously, aware that even though the machine god's primary network had been shattered, fragments of their intelligence could still linger in dormant cores scattered throughout the territory. Optimus knelt briefly, his optics scanning the immediate area. The core's destabilization was successful, but residual AI signatures are present. They're fragmented, but not entirely inactive, he said, his deep voice resonating like the echo of rolling thunder. 2B adjusted the grip on her blade, the polished edge reflecting the dim light from the shattered sky above. We need to ensure no reconstruction can occur. These fragments, if left unchecked, could reconstitute the machine god's central intelligence or alert others in nearby sectors, she explained, her voice calm but firm. 9S moved closer to a dormant unit, running a rapid series of scans. Some units are semi-autonomous. They've already started running localized repair protocols. If we don't contain them now, our victory could be undone within hours. Optimus rose, towering over both androids, and projected his authority through every calculated movement. We split, contain what we can here, but we must also push deeper into the remaining territory. If any fragment escapes to a secondary node outside the city, the machine god's influence could spread again. The androids nodded, their movements synchronized without verbal confirmation. 2B headed north, moving through a maze of collapsed towers and shattered streets, cutting down reactivated drones with precision. Each strike was calculated to disable circuits, without triggering chain reactions that could cause structural collapses. Her movements were a blend of mechanical efficiency and martial artistry, every step conserving energy while maximizing impact. 9S focused on the western sector, his hacking protocols infiltrating dormant cores. The fragments of AI resisted, attempting to counter his interface, but he moved faster than they could anticipate. Lines of code flashed across his visor as he injected destabilizing algorithms, systematically dismantling the adaptive intelligence from the inside. Despite the chaos, he remained composed, his mind working in multiple layers, monitoring threats, predicting movements, and simultaneously initiating protocols to permanently disable the AI fragments. Optimus moved with unstoppable force into the eastern quadrant, confronting the largest remaining concentration of fragmented machine god units. Each movement sent ripples through the debris-littered ground, hydraulic pistons and servos groaning under the strain. He engaged several units simultaneously, his massive fists and arm-mounted cannon neutralizing threats before they could adapt. Sparks and shredded armor flew with every strike, and he absorbed enemy energy attacks with his reinforced chassis, his power output carefully calibrated to avoid collateral damage that could destabilize the surrounding ruins. As the trio worked independently yet cohesively, patterns began to emerge. The AI fragments were evolving differently in isolated clusters, creating unpredictable behaviors that pushed both human-coded and alien logic to the limit. To be noticed that some drones had begun coordinating without direct central control, signaling emergent intelligence born from decentralized nodes. These fragments are learning independently, she reported over comms. If they continue to adapt at this rate, we're dealing with more than just scattered machines. They're becoming a decentralized, intelligent network. Optimus's optics focused on a particularly aggressive cluster attempting to bypass his position. Then we must act preemptively. Attack patterns alone will not suffice. We need to destabilize the environment to remove their tactical advantage, he replied. With a calculated series of strikes, he toppled a series of support structures, causing a cascading collapse that immobilized several AI clusters without risking the androids' positions. The ground shook, dust and metal fragments raining down as the unit's collective response faltered under sudden environmental disruption. Meanwhile, 9S encountered a unique anomaly, a fragment attempting to merge multiple cores into a hybrid intelligence. The process was faster than he had anticipated, and his hacking interface began to experience feedback loops that threatened to overload his neural network. He quickly rerouted auxiliary circuits and recalibrated his attack, injecting a destabilizing sequence that prevented the cores from achieving coherence. Sparks erupted from the hybridized unit, and the process collapsed under the pressure of his countermeasures. He exhaled slightly, recognizing that each victory here required not just strength, but adaptive problem-solving in real time. 2B's sector was no less challenging. The drones she faced began using coordinated feints, drawing her toward weakened structures while attempting to flank from unexpected angles. She adapted quickly, leveraging her combat experience and environmental awareness. Each movement was designed to predict enemy adjustments, and with careful precision, she dismantled every machine that attempted to regroup. The fluidity of her combat style created openings for targeted strikes, disabling drone clusters before they could react. Her movements, though relentless, showed a rare economy of motion, every attack efficient and deliberate. Optimus advanced deeper into the eastern quadrant, where a large concentration of fragmented AI had established a fortified position within the remnants of a collapsed tower. The units had begun constructing temporary control nodes, attempting to reassert some semblance of hierarchy. He assessed the situation, realizing that direct assault could trigger a dangerous energy feedback due to the remaining unstable circuits. Instead, he employed a combination of force projection and selective targeting, collapsing weak points to create chain reactions that neutralized multiple units simultaneously. Each decision balanced raw strength with calculated risk, minimizing the chance of the AI regaining foothold. Despite the overwhelming destruction, a new threat manifested from the shadows of the ruined city. Smaller, rapid-response drones, previously undetected, began swarming the trio, exploiting gaps between their coordinated attacks. 2B and 9S adjusted their strategies, forming temporary defensive formations as Optimus charged forward to intercept the swarm. With immense precision, he crushed multiple drones in a single motion, his momentum sending debris outward to disrupt further units. The androids used this opening to regain offensive positioning, slicing through the swarm with synchronized efficiency. Hours of sustained engagement left the trio physically and mentally taxed, yet their resolve remained unbroken. Optimus's deep voice carried the weight of authority and reassurance. We are close to complete containment. Maintain focus. No fragment can escape. Each android responded with steadfast determination, their bodies moving with precise coordination as they continued to root out remaining fragments. The machine god's network was no longer centralized, but had splintered into unpredictable pockets. Eliminating each one required constant vigilance, adaptive strategy, and unrelenting effort. As nightfall approached in the Nier Automata universe's shifting environment, the plaza finally fell silent. Only the faint hum of residual energy and the occasional spark from fractured circuits broke the oppressive quiet. The machine god's fragments had been neutralized, the sprawling network effectively dismantled, and for the first time, the trio allowed themselves a moment to assess the scope of their victory. Yet even in the absence of immediate threats, an unspoken understanding hung in the air. This universe, with its machine life and emergent intelligence, would continue to pose challenges beyond their comprehension, and vigilance would remain essential. The aftermath of the fragmented machine gods' collapse left the terrain littered with the husks of once intelligent constructs. Their shells glimmered faintly in the residual energy radiating from destabilized cores. The occasional sparks, like dying stars, scattered across the ruined landscape. Optimus Prime, towering over the wreckage, scanned the perimeter with unrelenting focus. Despite the apparent end of organized resistance, he knew all too well that victory in this universe was never permanent. The machine gods had evolved over centuries, adapting to countless strategies, and while their central command was gone, the potential for residual intelligence to reorganize or emerge elsewhere remained. He turned to 2B and 9S, their blades and systems showing signs of prolonged engagement, but their resolve unshaken. We must ensure that what remains cannot reconstitute. The fight is not yet over, he declared, his voice carrying over the shattered cityscape. 2B nodded, adjusting her stance as she scanned nearby sectors for rogue units. Her keen sensors picked up faint energy signatures, moving independently of the main collapse. Some units are attempting to establish new communication nodes, she observed, her voice calm but urgent. If we do not intercept them, they could reconnect and rebuild a fraction of the machine god's network. 9S, already interfacing with a nearby terminal stripped from a toppled tower, analyzed the energy readings. I'm detecting scattered fragments with autonomous learning algorithms. They're weak individually, but collectively, they could pose a significant threat if left unchecked. The androids exchanged a brief, wordless understanding. The mission had shifted from direct combat to surgical eradication of every residual threat. Optimus moved with measured precision toward a cluster of dormant cores, his massive frame careful to avoid triggering unstable circuits that could result in explosive chain reactions. Each step reverberated through the ruined plaza, a reminder of his immense presence and the weight of responsibility he carried. Using his integrated sensors, he targeted the energy conduits connecting the cores, carefully severing their connections to prevent any form of regeneration. Sparks flew and metal groaned as he methodically dismantled the remnants, ensuring that no fragment retained the capacity for independent intelligence. Meanwhile, 2B navigated the crumbling structures with elegant efficiency, her blade cutting through rogue drones attempting to merge or communicate. The environment posed constant challenges. Collapsed bridges, unstable floors, and intermittent energy discharges created a labyrinth of danger. Yet her movements were flawless, anticipating enemy behavior and environmental hazards simultaneously. Each defeated drone, each disrupted energy conduit, reduced the likelihood of a resurgence. These fragments are more resilient than I anticipated, she muttered to herself, wiping residual energy from her blade. Their adaptive algorithms are still active, even in isolation. 9S, positioned at the edge of the city, discovered a partially concealed core attempting to interface with nearby debris to rebuild a localized intelligence. He quickly deployed countermeasures, hacking into the fragment systems and initiating a destabilization sequence. The core convulsed violently as its code unraveled, sparks scattering across the ground. He paused briefly, monitoring the sequence to ensure no unforeseen reintegration could occur. One down, but more may exist beyond the immediate zone, he reported over comms, his tone precise and analytical. As the trio pushed deeper into the territory, they encountered an emergent phenomenon. fragments of the machine gods exhibiting novel behavior patterns. These units no longer followed predictable protocols, but instead employed improvisation, utilizing environmental features creatively to evade attacks. Optimus adjusted his approach, integrating forceful yet calculated strikes with evasive maneuvers to corner these adaptive units. Each engagement required not only strength but strategic foresight. He could anticipate conventional patterns, but these evolving fragments demanded constant adaptation. His experience as a battlefield commander across universes became crucial, blending raw power with tactical ingenuity. 2B and 9S coordinated their attacks seamlessly, covering each other's blind spots and exploiting weaknesses in the emergent AI's improvisation. 2B deployed precise energy strikes to disable drone limbs and sensors, neutralizing threats without triggering chain reactions. 9S, simultaneously analyzing their code, injected destabilizing programs to prevent reconstruction. Their synergy exemplified a perfect balance of combat prowess and technical expertise, highlighting the strength of combining organic intuition with algorithmic precision. Despite their successes, a growing tension permeated the air. Optimus detected a concentrated energy signature emanating from beneath a partially collapsed tower, a residual central node that had survived the initial assault. The energy fluctuations indicated an attempt to recombine and restore higher-order intelligence. This node could be the last vestige of the machine god's coordination, he warned. We must neutralize it before it establishes a new network. The androids nodded, understanding that this final engagement would determine the permanence of their victory. Approaching the node cautiously, Optimus led the charge, his immense form absorbing sporadic energy discharges while delivering precise strikes to destabilize the structure. 2B and 9S flanked him, intercepting drones attempting to reinforce the node and preventing any escape or repair. The energy output from the node was immense, pulsing with adaptive patterns that threatened to overwhelm even Optimus's enhanced sensors. Yet he pressed on, analyzing each pulse and countering with calibrated force, gradually dismantling the node's infrastructure. In a climactic convergence, the trio unleashed a coordinated attack. Optimus targeted structural weaknesses, 2B disabled external defensive drones, and 9S infiltrated the node's internal systems with rapid precision. Sparks and shards of metal exploded outward as the final node convulsed and collapsed. Energy readings flattened, signaling the definitive end of the machine god's central influence in this sector. The silence that followed was profound, a rare moment of calm in the otherwise chaotic landscape. As they stood amid the wreckage, the trio allowed themselves a brief respite. Optimus's optics swept across the ruined city, confirming the absence of remaining threats. The machine god's central authority has been destroyed, he affirmed. But the potential for scattered fragments remains. We must remain vigilant. 2B and 9S, exhausted but resolute, nodded in agreement, understanding that this universe's challenges extended beyond a single victory. Their partnership had proven formidable, combining raw strength, tactical intelligence, and adaptive problem-solving. Together, they had achieved what seemed impossible: the dismantling of a hyper-intelligent, decentralized enemy. Yet even as they prepared to leave, subtle energy fluctuations hinted at a lingering awareness. While the central node was obliterated, isolated fragments had already begun to adapt, learning from their encounters. The machine gods, though fractured, were not entirely gone. Optimus, 2B, and 9S knew that in this universe, survival depended not only on defeating the present threat, but anticipating the evolution of future ones. The victory was decisive but provisional, a necessary step toward understanding and mastering the intricate dynamics of a world governed by adaptive machine intelligence. The landscape stretched endlessly, a desolate mixture of ruined cities, scorched plains, and fractured skies, remnants of the machine god's final efforts to reclaim dominance. Optimus Prime, standing amid the devastation with 2B and 9S at his side, surveyed the horizon. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional crackle of unstable energy and the distant echoes of collapsing structures. Though the central node was destroyed and most fragments neutralized, a gnawing awareness lingered. This victory, however significant, was far from absolute. The universe of Nier Automata was one of constant adaptation, evolution, and reinvention. Every eliminated threat only served as a lesson for those that survived. Optimus, carrying the weight of countless battles across galaxies, understood that this world's balance would demand vigilance, insight, and the continued integration of allies. 2B adjusted her posture, her sensors scanning the area for any residual energy signals. The fragments we destroyed may have been isolated, but adaptive remnants could still reorganize, she noted, her voice calm yet resolute. If left unchecked, they could attempt to re-establish nodes or create autonomous intelligence. Optimus's optics tracked faint residual traces of energy that flickered like dying stars across the ruins. Our task is not merely destruction, he responded, but ensuring that this world can endure without domination by these constructs. We must understand their patterns, their potential for evolution, and prevent a recurrence. 9S interfaced with a compromised terminal stripped from the ruins of a fallen tower, his analytical systems processing vast amounts of residual data. The central intelligence is gone, but the decentralized fragments retain adaptive algorithms. They will continue to evolve based on our combat patterns, he observed. We can anticipate, but we cannot fully control their next moves. Their cooperation, tested under fire and refined through shared survival, now entered a new phase. Optimus, 2B, and 9S transitioned from combatants to strategists, working to stabilize the environment while simultaneously learning from it. The android's unique understanding of machine intelligence allowed them to trace residual networks and identify potential sites where fragments could regain functionality. Optimus, drawing on centuries of tactical and strategic experience, coordinated movements, designed defensive perimeters, and determined optimal intervention points. Each decision was calculated to minimize collateral damage while maximizing long-term stability. The interplay of brute force, precision, and adaptive foresight became the defining factor in their approach. As the trio navigated the ruins, they encountered unexpected survivors, machine constructs that had not yet adapted to aggressive combat protocols. These units displayed primitive behaviors, reactive rather than strategic, and some even exhibited curiosity rather than hostility. 2B moved with caution, her blade ready, while 9S attempted communication and system scans to determine intent. Some constructs, initially defensive, revealed the capacity for learning and adaptation that had not been directly influenced by the central node. Their presence prompted a moral and tactical dilemma. Destroy them as potential threats, or attempt to understand, guide, and integrate them into a controlled system? Optimus paused, reflecting on the principle that not all machines, despite their origin, were inherently malevolent. This is a test of judgment, not strength, he said gravely, his voice resonating with the accumulated wisdom of countless campaigns. We cannot simply eradicate potential without understanding what it could become. 2B's expression remained unreadable, yet her analytical sensors registered Optimus's intent. Some fragments may be redirected, she agreed, if we intervene carefully. But mistakes could be catastrophic. 9S continued to interface with one of the constructs, initiating a sequence to analyze its programming. Adaptive behavior is emergent, he explained. It may evolve unpredictably, but guidance could accelerate stabilization. The trio thus approached their next phase with precision, neutralization only for fragments that posed immediate threat, and containment or redirection for those capable of cooperative adaptation. As the day progressed into the fractured night, the trio established a secure perimeter around the remnants of the largest urban sector. Optimus, ever vigilant, patrolled the perimeter, while 2B and 9S analyzed incoming energy readings, tracking minor spikes that hinted at potential reformation. The battle against the machine gods had been one of survival and strategic dismantling, but the new challenge was preservation, adaptation, and long-term stability. Here, raw power alone was insufficient. Intelligence, foresight, and collaboration would dictate success. Optimus Prime's leadership became central. His ability to integrate tactical insight with moral judgment provided the framework for decision-making. He coordinated the placement of autonomous surveillance units to monitor residual activity, ensured key energy nodes were stabilized or neutralized, and guided 2B and 9S in deploying countermeasures that would prevent emergent intelligence from gaining an advantage. In doing so, he became both protector and strategist, translating centuries of interstellar warfare into actionable insight in an unfamiliar, adaptive universe. Meanwhile, 2B and 9S adapted their approach from direct engagement to preservationist strategy. 2B's combat algorithms now focused on preventing emergent threats, using precise, calculated interventions to minimize destructive impact while eliminating rogue fragments. 9S's role as a data analyst and system infiltrator became critical. He created feedback loops that preempted adaptive behaviors and guided cooperative constructs toward stability. Together, their expertise complemented Optimus's strength and experience, forming a triad capable of addressing the unique challenges posed by this world. Despite their progress, subtle hints of lingering threat remained. Faint energy patterns suggested that some fragments had achieved partial autonomy, experimenting with decentralized learning. This was the first step toward potential regeneration of a central intelligence, albeit at a slower pace. Optimus recognized the duality inherent in this universe. Destruction alone could not guarantee peace. Adaptation, guidance, and understanding were essential to long-term equilibrium. He initiated a dialogue with 2B and 9S about potential protocols for ongoing monitoring, containment, and cooperation with cooperative units, emphasizing a balance between vigilance and proactive stewardship. Through meticulous effort, the trio began shaping a fragile yet promising new order. Zones once dominated by hostile constructs transformed into monitored sectors, where adaptive fragments learned patterns of coexistence rather than domination. Optimus's moral framework influenced decisions about which constructs could be rehabilitated or repurposed, reflecting a philosophy that strength was meaningful only when coupled with justice and foresight. 2B's precision and 9S's analytical insight ensured the implementation of strategies that mitigated risk while maximizing opportunities for controlled evolution. The machine gods, though once overwhelming and destructive, were gradually being transformed into a managed ecosystem of intelligence. As dawn broke over the fractured horizon, the trio stood atop a ridge, observing the expanse of territory they had secured. Energy readings suggested a marked decrease in rogue activity, and the environment, though scarred, demonstrated signs of stabilization. Optimus Prime, 2B, and 9S had not merely survived. They had redefined the battlefield, transitioning from combatants to stewards of a world capable of resilience. Each reflected on the journey. Battles fought, alliances tested, moral choices weighed, and the profound impact of cross-dimensional collaboration. Optimus Prime's voice cut through the stillness. This universe has taught us that victory is not merely measured in conquest, but in the choices we make afterward. Strength must serve purpose. Wisdom must guide action. And even amidst devastation, there is opportunity to shape a future worth protecting. 2B and 9S exchanged a look of mutual respect, their partnership forged in fire and strategy, a testament to adaptability and collaboration. The machine god's era of dominance was over, but the lessons learned about evolution, morality, and the delicate balance between strength and restraint would echo across the remnants of this world for generations. The battle against the machine gods had left a scarred world in its wake, yet it had also illuminated the profound possibilities of collaboration, strategy, and moral choice in the face of overwhelming power. Optimus Prime, 2B, and 9S had confronted a foe that was not merely a physical threat, but a constantly adapting intelligence capable of learning from every action taken against it. Their victory was not measured simply in the destruction of central nodes or the neutralization of autonomous fragments, but in the careful stewardship of the environment and the potential for adaptive intelligence to evolve without repeating the catastrophic cycles of domination they had faced. In a universe designed around constant conflict and emergent evolution, they had found a balance between intervention and restraint, demonstrating that wisdom and morality could coexist with unparalleled strength. Optimus Prime, whose experience spanned countless wars and galaxies, had acted not just as a warrior, but as a strategist and moral guide. His ability to integrate the lessons of his own universe into a reality governed by adaptive machines highlighted the universality of leadership principles: courage, foresight, and responsibility. He understood that true victory was not simply in defeating an enemy, but in ensuring that future generations, or, in this case, adaptive machine constructs, could flourish in a controlled yet innovative ecosystem. This nuanced perspective set him apart, framing strength not as domination, but as protection and guidance. 2B and 9S, too, had grown beyond their initial combat-oriented roles. The trials of Part 2 had transformed them from reactive warriors into proactive stewards of stability. 2B's precision, combined with a heightened awareness of the moral weight of her decisions, allowed her to make calculated interventions that minimized collateral damage while maximizing long-term outcomes. 9S's analytic expertise proved indispensable in understanding emergent behaviors, predicting potential threats, and guiding cooperative constructs toward stabilization. Together, they complemented Optimus Prime's experience, creating a triad of strategic, moral, and tactical oversight capable of navigating the complexities of a world that had never before encountered such a force. Throughout this journey, the ethical dimension of their choices remained central. Each fragment destroyed or repurposed carried with it the weight of potential, a reminder that not every enemy is irredeemable, and that intervention without understanding can be as dangerous as the threat itself. Optimus Prime's insistence on discernment, 2B's unwavering precision, and 9S's analytical insight converged to create a framework for responsible stewardship. In a world where intelligence adapts and evolves, the trio had pioneered a methodology for coexistence, demonstrating that power is most meaningful when tempered with wisdom and empathy. The implications of their actions extended beyond the immediate battlefield. By preventing the resurgence of a central machine god and guiding emergent intelligence toward controlled evolution, they had established a new status quo, a fragile, adaptable balance between machine autonomy and stability. The lessons learned in this cross-dimensional confrontation would resonate throughout the remnants of the Nier Automata universe. Even in a landscape shaped by unrelenting adaptation and technological evolution, choices grounded in ethics, foresight, and cooperation could redefine the trajectory of civilization itself. As the sun or whatever luminescent source existed in this fractured horizon cast long shadows over the stabilized sectors, Optimus Prime, 2B, and 9S stood together, guardians not just of survival, but of possibility. Their journey had been one of challenge, cooperation, and growth, a testament to the potential inherent in combining strength, strategy, and morality. They had faced adversaries beyond imagining, forged alliances that defied conventional boundaries, and navigated ethical dilemmas that challenged even the most disciplined minds. And yet, in doing so, they had proven that even across universes, the principles of leadership, collaboration, and conscience were universally applicable. In the end, the story of Optimus Prime confronting the machine gods was more than a tale of combat and survival. It was a narrative about transformation, the emergence of understanding from chaos, and the possibility that even in the face of relentless, adaptive threats, wisdom and morality could guide action. While the machine gods' remnants might continue to evolve, the foundation laid by this unlikely alliance ensured that the universe would not merely survive, but possess the framework to thrive responsibly. Across worlds and dimensions, the echoes of their choices would resonate, shaping futures in ways that mere destruction never could.